Consulate General, for your kind words. I travel a lot around the world.
And we'll be waiting for them. But in the meantime, we can start because we'll always get some time to interact with the visitors and with each other. When we talk of India, sometimes at least most part of the world, somehow the image of India is connected to IT. Many of us, those who are here, would remember that there was a milestone in the year 2000, around that time. It started before that, but then there was one of the largest, in fact the largest partner in it. So we are very happy that the Vice President of NASSCOM, the apex body, National Association of Software and Services Companies, NASSCOM India, he is visiting us. Yesterday we met in a smaller format, some of us. Today he has had good meetings, at least 3 of them. And this is an occasion when we'll hear from him what is NASSCOM very briefly, if somebody is not done, and what is the industry that it represents, the total volume and the diversity, and what it is looking forward to from Chicago and Greater Chicago. So thank you, Shivendra Singh, for coming and joining us. And what I would propose that you will speak for about
a few meetings that we did. I think there are a number of things which come out very loud and clear. Number one, the amount of cohesion that I've seen across the tech players, the enterprises, the startups, and of course shepherded by a very able Consul General is amazing. I haven't seen this kind of cohesion in many other places. So that's one. The hunger to engage between the Chicago ecosystem or Illinois ecosystem and India is another great one. The Consul General highlighted the fact that India-US bilateral relationship is the most powerful one. In terms of trade, we want it to be the most powerful one because we don't want China to overtake the India, US bilateral relationship. So that's something we'll keep on going. And as the tech industry, I must say that we are contributing tremendously to this relationship. When I compare it to China, the whole industry is about a $254 billion industry. The exports are nearly $200 billion. So it's an export-driven industry. But US by far is the largest market, which is about 62% of the 200 billion. The Brits we don't even know what the China numbers are in terms of it's so small. So I'm just trying to belabor the point that the bilat India-US relationship has the tech sector as a linchpin of this relationship on both sides, and we'll discuss that. I take you back to NASSCOM because the CG asked me to, for people who may not know NASSCOM, go back about 30 odd years ago. Now for the tech industry, it's a lifetime, 30 odd years. When, a bunch of CEOs from very Wipro, all of them were sitting in a room and then they decided, let's form an association. I think we need to have an association. And then NASSCOM was born. At that time, the cumulative revenue was about $50 million. Fast forwarded to $254 billion, and we're not even discussing the market cap because then that becomes far bigger. And that's been the growth story of the tech industry. It is about 7.5% of India's GDP, 50% of our services exports. So as you know, India is a very services-led economy, but this is about 50% of our services exports. So I'm coming back to that question as to this whole India-US bilateral relationship and the role of tech sector is going to define the next 20-30 years, as we are now very seriously looking at what we call Viksit Bharat by 2047, which is developed India by 2047. These are a few things where we feel that the tech sector is going to define a lot of that relationship as a part of discussions where both India and US will work together, including very strong startup element to it. My colleague Mayank, who's here in the room, was there in San Francisco when the two, our Commerce Minister and Secretary Commerce Gina Raimondo met and had a deep discussion on that. We have the Trade Policy Forum as a government-to-government discussion where the tech sector plays a very important role. Important sector, and we have formal mechanisms at a G2G level. We have track 1.5 going as business to government, and this is going to define a lot of progress as we move forward, because when we go to the granular level, this is how we will see things move on. Now, why India? A lot of consulting companies, you know, the growth is not going to be like this. It won't have a sustainable growth model. It will be a cataclysmic growth like this, where, you know, they're saying that the GDP growth is going to be growing by multitude after the next 2 years, when the real effects of AI are going to be seen. Look at India as an example, you know, on this one, and that's where one of the things that we should focus on, the US-India relationship. How many of you have heard about the Digital Public Infrastructure, DPI? So that's an amazing story. While the US, and that clearly highlights that no one model is the best model for development. Each country will have its own model, and India decided to go for its own model. So what it means is that, you know, in the US, you know, if we calculate the revenue figures of the top 5 tech companies, what, it's more than $15 trillion? Just that. And a lot of this big tech success rate is defining the growth of the economy. India went in for a different model. Our challenges were different. Our challenges was that we wanted to have a equitable, inclusive growth, where there is a substantial chunk of the population at the bottom of the pyramid, and we wanted to ensure a direct benefit transfer scheme as the government, and I'm not saying we are taking credit for this is the government's credit. So first let me clarify that. So the direct benefit transfer scheme which the government brought in meant that Aadhaar, which is our universal digital identity that we have, we've used that and used that to kind of put in an open data network where we can have everyone in interoperable system, where everyone can join in, be it a startup, be it a big player, be it an enterprise. And we've created models where we are looking at, you know, the whole transfer mechanism, where we've opened bank accounts for everyone, and the whole amount was transferred to people directly. And believe you me, this is probably the biggest achievement which the government brought out, and especially felt more during the times of COVID, where you know, transferring money was probably the most important thing. So that model we did a piece of research as NASSCOM and Boston Consulting Group. Nearly 1% of India's GDP contribution has increased only because of DPI. And I'll send you a copy of that report, Consul General. And what we are saying is, these are the mature DPIs. There are a number of others which have also been set into motion. And if all of those kind of push through, and push through at a population scale, which is the most important success matrix for the DPI, the GDP growth can be between 2.9 to 3.5%. Scientist role, there are 5 key core areas that the skill sets are there. Unfortunately, it's not the same in different countries. It's different. Now that creates a problem, right? So what was decided was, why can't we look at comparability of job roles across the G20 countries, including US and India, and have a center of excellence, and by the way, who can lead this center of excellence? So it was agreed and that UNESCO will do it, because obviously UNESCO being UNESCO, they do a lot of focus on this area, so they'll do it. And this it'll be a virtual center of excellence which will look at job roles and skill sets. Now what will it bring? The important thing is it's going to bring an understanding far more quicker than we are, this one person available for 11 vacancies. We will know quicker across nations that you have a problem in specific job roles. Far more quicker than currently is being done. And if you are an optimist, and if countries want it, it can lead to an interoperability of these job roles. So people can move from one place to the other if political equations are right, a big if. But I think this is going to define a lot of growth on the way forward as I speak. Now, let's look at some of the things which I've picked up on between yesterday and today. Story, we have 31,000 plus startups, third largest ecosystem. US is a world leader in startups. We know that this region has tremendous strengths in advanced manufacturing, in healthcare, financial services, and as someone said in an earlier meeting that, you know what, we really don't sell ourselves very well, which is good for us. Because, I always make the comparison of Israel and Finland and Sweden, the Nordics. Israel oversells, so it's difficult. Nordics undersells, maybe it's the way of life which they have. So it's good for us. So I think that way, we think that there is a strategic fit for our startups in Indian startups, and as NASSCOM we have a program for deep tech startups. So we don't look at early stage startups who are just about raising funds at an early level, who don't even have a pilot and are looking to create that first pilot. These are all mature transformative startups, not the typical SaaS startups but product startups, and doing great work. And a fair amount of our focus are on AI startups across some of these sectors. So the first big partnership could be potentially in sectors of advanced manufacturing, Industry 4.0, healthcare, and financial services. And and we could look to work towards that. So that's one. The other is on a thought leadership level. I think all of you would be the key people who are instrumental in building the India-US corridor thought leadership in this region. Each one of us have a responsibility to build that. I think that is going to be a great one where a lot of people really don't understand, and members of Congress included, they don't understand what do these tech companies do. Apple has this fancy nice product, a phone. But by the way, guys, what goes inside the Apple phone is developed by these tech players. As someone said, the CEO of Mercedes India, a very strong statement. There is India in every Mercedes that is being produced. So what I'm saying is, it's our job to make everyone understand the role of these tech players.
Once again, welcome to Chicago. As you mentioned, from the warm, I think cozy, I must say, my Delhi to my Chicago. It has been hot, but it is just changed to welcome you. I think today's the temperature is very soothing and cooling. So let's hear from you. NASSCOM then, NASSCOM now, where we want to take it up when we're talking about the Prime Minister's vision for 2047 and then 2027 itself from 5 to 3.
So, NASSCOM then to NASSCOM now, I think we've had an amazing success story. We've grown and evolved just as the tech industry has grown and evolved. Our main objective is to ensure that India becomes the leading tech innovation nation in the world. And this means, both Indian tech companies looking at global efforts, especially the US, which is the largest market for us. 62% of the 200 billion is the US. We punch well above our weight in terms of $80 billion contribution to the US economy in GDP, more than 500,000 high value add jobs, working with 130 plus universities, spending $1.1 billion on STEM education. Similarly, success stories, largest GCC center in India for the US. A lot of our large US companies are present in India and the second largest hub for a number of them. And this has all been made possible because of the digital talent story. India's digital talent, especially at a time when artificial intelligence is going to be responsible for the growth, GDP growth of all the nations, which means that, the demand-supply gap on talent is going to increase further. But Indians typically take to STEM like fish take to water. And hence, we are slightly better positioned than many other countries. US, for example, as I mentioned in computer occupation some time back, we had one person available for 10 job vacancies. That's not good, and with AI, it's going to be even worse. So how do we work together between US and India? And the oldest and the largest democracy has obviously been traditionally thought of. But the largest economy and the third largest economy potentially being soon is what we should be working on. How do we create a $30 trillion economy by 2047, make India a Viksit Bharat, as the Honorable Prime Minister has alluded to. And we as NASSCOM, will leave no stone unturned to make technology sector as the linchpin partner between India and US to grow this bilateral trade and keep it the number one, trade partners for India.
On a concluding note, startups, at that time when we left Bharat, it was not that kind of opportunities that we had it. But I know a lot of brain is going out there also, the kids, those who are doing their masters here, postdocs here, and they want to do in startups. So what is the success stories?
So as I mentioned, SMEs were never given that due regard that they should have. Because the success story was SMEs will define what a lot of, growth in the economy is. But the startups have changed that, right? Every young person likes to join a startup because what it brings to the table, the passion, the excellence, the ability to create an impact, and we discussed some of the examples. So those are going to define a lot. 31,000 startups, the third largest startup ecosystem. But now as NASSCOM, we focus on deep tech startups, which is transformative startups, not the early stage startups, but ones which have are commercialized. A number of them unicorns are going to be unicorns or soonicorns as they call them. And, it's a product story game as well. So we're not talking about only the SaaS-based startups, but more the product-based startups. And, and they are the darling of enterprises. So even in Chicago, the discussions that I've had, makes me feel very optimistic that we are planning around 30 deep tech curated startups to come to the US. And believe you me, we had thought about doing it in New York and San Francisco. But since yesterday, given the opportunities here, we are looking seriously at Chicago to be able to bring them here and see what we can look at doing in the area of advanced manufacturing, health tech, fintech, which is a big success story in Chicago region, and see how the matchmaking will go. So we are really looking forward to that.
Thank you so very much for your time. Really appreciate. Thanks and enjoy your visit.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope you found it useful.
मैंने उनको टेक्स्ट किया, मैंने सोचा था 6 बजे तक निकल जाएंगे. The traffic was showing 1.5 hours, so I said like you continue because we don't have a quorum, so they cancelled the meeting. I'm good? Okay. Namaskar, Consul General. First of all, thanks for hosting. I was telling Mr. Shivendra ji that NASSCOM's coming is very, very important. And he said now they want to continue with Chicago, with Midwest, because there's so much to have it here. Let's hear about, because since last 2 days you guys been busy, meetings after meetings. So what is the outcome and how Chicago Consulate wants to lead it further so that it can not just stay in paper but goes further?
Yeah, namaskar. Mr. Shivendra Singh, who is the Vice President of NASSCOM India, the apex body which presides over $255 billion IT and IT-related services in India. He is visiting Midwest. For about 2 days he was in Indiana, and from there he is now in Chicago. In Indiana he called on the Governor Holcomb, and other dignitaries, other business people and those who are active in IT sector. And here yesterday he met about 15 top professionals and top management professionals from various industries. All of them are related to IT. Today he met the representative of government of Illinois. He visited MHub. He met representatives of IT Serve and other people who are interested and were active involved in the IT sector. In this consulate, we had a talk by Mr. Shivendra Singh on NASSCOM and what he is doing, what it is doing for the IT sector and the service exports, which is about $200 billion and 60% of that into USA, and what can be done in the Midwest region. We feel that it is very encouraging, and there are a large number of industries which want to leverage IT. There is a huge number of new startup which is coming up. It's a very big startup ecosystem. There is a huge financial sector in Chicago. Certainly it is one of the largest. So altogether the region offers great opportunities for India's IT sector, and IT not only for IT sector but related sectors, for innovation, mutual investment, and for emerging and critical technologies, for which also the Chicago is taking a lead. So it is very encouraging, and we need more such interaction, and hopefully it will lead to greater service exports and greater collaboration in innovation.
Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it.
Dhanyavad. Thank you.